A very good morning to all present here. The cultivation of the literary pursuits forms the basis of all sciences, and in their perfection consists the prosperity of kingdoms. Imagine a world without art, a world without any music, dance, film, literature, or the other countless mediums of art. That world is extremely difficult to imagine, as a world without art would be devastatingly desolate, meaningless, and dull. Devoid of expressing the creativity and imagination that humans possess, will only lead to a dry and meaningless existence. Pursuing the arts gives us a channel to express and share our own ideas and thoughts. As the lockdowns have eased and we return to some semblance of pseudo normality, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this virtual platform. Mnemosyne 2020 aims to celebrate the importance of literary pursuits and promises to take you along on a memorable journey. The events included in today's program are debate, poetry writing and recitation, art pictoria poesis. Let's begin and witness the magic of all of our spirited participants. Hubert Humphrey once said, freedom is hammered out on the anvil of discussion, dissent, and debate. Freedom is not merely the chance to choose between the given alternatives, nor is it the opportunity to do as one pleases. It is, first of all, the chance to formulate those choices, argue over them, and then choose the most suitable one. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli, often called the founder of modern political science, said that whether it be better to be loved than feared, or feared than loved, one should wish to be both. But because it is difficult to unite them in one person, it is much safer to be feared than loved. He followed the maxim, the end justifies the means. It is from one of his famous works, The Prince, that we have taken our motion for today's debate, which is, this house believes that one who becomes a master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. Every participant will have 2 minutes to present their debate. We will now begin with Team A.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, members of the jury, my worthy opponents, and dear friends. Today, I, Hanu Chauhan, stand here to speak for the motion, the one who becomes a master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. I completely agree with this quote taken from a very famous book, The Prince, written by Niccolo Machiavelli. Men are still the dupes of their simplicity and greed as they were in the days of Alexander VI. Men will not look at things as they really are, but as they wish them to be, and are ruined. Wherever those states which have been acquired are stated and have been accustomed to live under their own laws and in freedom, there are three courses for those who wish to hold them. First is to ruin them. Second is to reside there in person. Third is to permit them to live under their own laws, drawing a tribute and establishing within it an oligarchy which will keep it friendly to the master. The quote that was written almost 5 centuries ago is still debatable because it's applicable to the modern times as well. For example, Tibet. Tibet has been occupied and ruled by China since 1951. It was occupied under a very calculated and systematic strategy aiming at the destruction of Tibet's national and cultural unity amongst the people. For more realistic view, consider a family. Just like any other family, the children are bound to obey their parents. Many people say the children should be given freedom in order to make them independent. However, the reality is that giving them too much freedom would spoil them. So, the freedom given to them should be well within limits, otherwise it may lead to destruction for both the parents and the children. Neither time nor benefits will ever cause the feelings of the people to change and accept the new master. Thus, to take total control, it's always better to disunite or dismantle the people and their beliefs. Thank you.
Honorable Chairperson, members of the jury, my worthy opponents and my dear friends. Today, I, Chinmay Deshmukh, am here to speak against the motion one who becomes the master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. The motion here was first stated by an Italian diplomat named Niccolo Machiavelli back in the 16th century, and it may have proven to be true back then. But in the modern world, this statement proves to be untrue not just politically, but in every aspect of our life. People today need freedom as much as they need oxygen. The population today is strong and it's aware of its rights. They know when a leader is good for them and when he isn't. In such a condition, freedom only ensures that people can stand up to inefficient and biased leaderships. Good and hardworking leaders are always appreciated, so the retaliation completely depends on the quality of leadership. Now let us consider situations where people often think that ruling with an iron fist is the only option. For example, modern households. Freedom and the right of decision making instill a sense of confidence in children from a very young age. While correct guidance is obviously requisite, however, having faith in your child is equally important. Even in the ancient times, kings who sympathized with people and treated them humbly were loved by them. They didn't need to snatch away anyone's freedom. In fact, they earned people's loyalty, faith, and trust. I believe such aspects of leadership must be inculcated in the modern world. If in modern organizations, leaders treat everyone equally and believe in others' opinions, then one can come up with numerous ideas for innovation, and creativity won't ever see a limit. In the end, I would like to say I firmly believe in the following words of Thomas Jefferson. I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. Thank you.
My warm and heartfelt greetings to one and all. This house believes that one who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. And I, Suryansh Khatri of class 12th, stand strictly in favor of the motion. These lines, appropriately quoted by Niccolo Machiavelli, were not very appropriately received. As a matter of fact, we know that the expectations of commoners increase as more and more of their demands are fulfilled. This might lead to dethroning of a ruler despite him or her being willing to serve for the betterment of the public. Thus, a leader must put certain restrictions on the public not to secure his position, but to ensure the well-being of a majority section of the public. I ask you all, can a ruler simply be termed immoral for overlooking or at occasions going against those demands of some people which are not very significant and can pose a threat to the well-being of the majority population irrespective of social divisions? Consider the present scenario as an instance. Across the globe, no matter how hard any government tries to improve the position of the state, it has to face an irrelevant defiance from the opposition parties. The public should indeed have the right to exercise freedom, but not to an extent that it becomes a threat to the state. Being an effective leader is indeed more important than being a loved leader, even if that means being a feared leader. Because all the public expects from the ruler is effectiveness. At the end, I would like to rest my case by asserting that effective leadership is not always about being liked or applauded, for leadership is defined by its results, not attributes. Thank you.
Before I begin, I would like to know how many of you are okay if I open floor for random interjections, all in the name of the freedom I have. I doubt any. Because freedom is not the right to do as you please, but the liberty to do as you should. And this should is what the master directs us towards. A very good morning to the entire panel present here. I'm Ritika Sharma and I'm here to present my views against the motion. When a competent leader is assigned to a new community, he would rather be a part of the system and understand it better than completely trashing it in the name of betterment. Our current Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, has demonstrated it very effectively. He brought about many changes like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the GST reform, and even demonetization. But he brought about these changes gradually, and not as soon as he came into power. And what can be a greater proof of people accepting these changes made by him than them choosing him as their leader with greater and greater ratios? The very fact that you and me are sitting here in a debate which is well regulated and at the same time gives us the freedom to put forth our points without it leading into a chaos shows that freedom, if mastered well, can bring about productive results. And agreed, there have been rebellions against some decisions, be it the recent removal of Article 370 or amendment to Article 35A. But still, on one call of a leader, the entire nation stands together to light up the candles, showing their trust in him. And with this, I'd like to rest my case by quoting the words of Martin Luther King Jr. A genuine leader is not a searcher but a molder of consensus. Thank you.
Good morning to the esteemed panel of judges and my fellow participants. The topic we've been given for this debate stems into a very deep literal as well as metaphorical meaning. One who becomes a master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. I strongly agree with the topic and believe that the master and his subjects become so much used to this freedom that they forget that the interests of the ruler and the ruled are always contrary to each other and hence cannot be sustained for long. The subjects start questioning the institution of taxation, law and order, rules and regulations and thus challenge the very existence of these. A city thrives by exploiting the laborers, peasantry class, taxpayers and traders in order to maximize the profit for the growth of the economy. Hence, freedom for the city and the people would indeed come with a price. Let us take an example. The Romans, in order to hold Capua, Carthage and Numantia, dismantled them and did not lose them. On the other hand, they wished to hold Greece, making it free and permitting its laws. They did not succeed. In rebellion, it is always the ancient privileges that are used as a rallying point. Whatever one may do or provide against, they never forget that privilege, unless they are disunited or dispersed. However, this topic also has a profound metaphorical meaning. It points to the fact that one doesn't own things, rather things own them. It has been famously said, man wants what he wills, but he cannot will what he wants. You become slave to your habits and eventually succumb to them. When one is in time of need and a person reaches out to help, one never ceases to be grateful to that person, never forgets him or her. Even if that particular person is the worst of the worst, in the eye of the grateful, he is a savior and he remains a savior. In contemporary times, this can be seen through the life of a person who has been responsible in bringing about a revolution in almost all parts of the world, Steve Jobs. During his time at Apple, Steve Jobs was ousted, his team was given new jobs and new positions. However, the fire of rebellion within them did not cease. As soon as the time was right, they struck again, took what they had before, and never forgot what they stood for. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, the respected chairperson, honorable members of the jury and my eloquent opponents. I emphatically disagree with the topic that is laid by the house today and believe that there is only one thing that me and my partner can agree on. The fact that this topic has an amplitude of meanings. I believe that no, the city accustomed to freedom does not end up destroying the ruler because the people living in the city understand and value the freedom of thought, speech, income generation, recreation and all the other facets of human life. The society as well as the intellectuals who understand the value of freedom ensure that the city continues to prosper and preserve these values. Therefore, I reiterate that the master of the city takes the city to glorious heights with the freedom exercised by the people living in the city and wins the hearts of the masses. The latter flourish with the master and works together towards a welfare state. The city dwellers preserve the culture, traditions, institutions, systems, mechanisms and the notions that are based on the very idea of freedom itself. This importance is further exemplified and is reflected in the richness and diversities of the expansion of these expressions. What I am getting at here is the fact that the first step towards achieving one's goals is to believe in it, to will it to existence. My partner here cited an example of one of the biggest companies of the world, Apple. So I thought I should too. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, is said to have a rather unique and unnerving sense of aura around him, a rather unique reality distortion feel. He was said to distort his co-workers' sense of proportion and scale of difficulties and make them believe that whatever impossible task at hand they had was rather possible. Therefore, if one has the mindset, if one has the willpower, he or she can easily break the barrier of materialism and habits. If one really tries, he or she can easily rise above everyone else. Your reality distortion field is operating right now. It defines who you are, your abilities, limitations, strengths, weaknesses, and on and on. You present the reality to the world about yourself. You believe it. The others believe it. And when you get down to it, that's all that is required for reality. That we all believe in it. With this, I would like to rest my case. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Sid Mamtani and I will be speaking for the motion. I am firmly aligned with what this house believes in. The master will give the illusion that the city is in control and the master is there only for when things get out of hand, like a backup plan. The backbone of a state is its culture. If a master wants to take over the state, he can only do so by destroying that culture and its freedom. If he does not do it, if he does not erase that memory, the people will revolt and make a grab to restore that culture to its full glory at the bleakest of chances. Let's take the examples of the Russian Empire and the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire dispersed the population wherever it went and destroyed the indigenous culture by replacing it with the Roman culture very firmly. The areas conquered are still remembered as parts of the Roman Empire and the people as Romans. The Russian Empire led the states they conquered to retain their culture at large but impose their language. They were clearly a part of the Russian Empire, but they are still remembered for what they were. Their people were Balkans and Slavs and Cossacks, but not Russians. It is why it faced so many revolutions with cultural bases as compared to the Roman Empire, which faced political coups. A master will have to take away one's freedom, but that also means one's children will live and lead a life of order, not fearing when someone would break into their house in the spirit of freedom and take their lives and jewels. The city is like a dying star, and the master, the catalyst that holds its fate. If the catalyst is not allowed to play its part, it will form a singularity and consume everything around it in a vortex of malevolence and chaos. If the catalyst is allowed to play its part and govern the reaction, the star will go supernova. It will lose its past, what it was, but it will give birth to so many new stars, spreading light all around.
Good morning, this is Chandrama, and this house believes that one who becomes the master of a city accustomed to freedom should not expect to be destroyed by it. Friedrich Engels quoted, Hegel was the first to draw correctly the relation between freedom and necessity. To him, freedom is an insight to necessity. Thus, as long as said necessity is always fulfilled, a mass has no reason to give up the comfort of its own freedom for an unsure future by overthrowing a leader. Thus, when a city accustomed to freedom gains a master, as long as it does not lose the freedom it is accustomed to, it has no reason to destroy said master. A mass only tries to overthrow an overhead power when it believes that the same power is overpowering its own liberty. But when a mass believes it is free, it has no reason to rebel against the government in the name of freedom. And when a mass has the space and ability to accommodate a master, it was never truly free at all. It was merely under an illusion of freedom. Thus, when a mass gains a master, its freedom is constructed under an illusion. This illusion may consist of positive liberty, that is, liberty to eat, buy, and produce what you want, but not liberty from, that is, liberty from a master. This system can continue without disruption as long as the master does not bring about any negative change that brings about any uncertainty amongst the people. For example, in a democratic society, you are free to choose whatever product you like and buy it. But at the same time, what you might like can be influenced by the government through media and advertising. This allows you to believe that you are free, while at the same time a government is able to rule over you. This directly demonstrates that a mass may exist where it believes that it is free and it is accustomed to the same freedom, but a leader is able to rule over it without fear of destruction. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all. Today I am here to speak in favor of the motion of the topic. This house believes that one who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. Karl Popper once said, unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed and tolerance with them. A leader has to be cautioned against excessive generosity, strictness, or kindness, and should stress the need for moderate behavior. He has to be gentle or severe depending on the situation. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote the book The Prince around 550 years ago. At that time, there was complete anarchy in Italy, and Italy was not a powerful and modern nation state. Machiavelli dedicated the quote to the Prince of Medici family, and the reason was to create a powerful and deliberately and not to create brutal leaders. He prudently calculated the likely consequences of political actions that would achieve national safety. So we should not look at the quotation narrow-mindedly. My dissentient friend believes that rule of a king involves only compassion and kindness and not cruelty. But Machiavelli clearly taught a difference between necessary and unnecessary cruelty. He advised that politics was ultimately and finally a constant struggle for power and domination which had to be judged by its own rules and norms. He recommended the cautious and judicious exercise of despotic violence, for otherwise it would create widespread distrust and hostility towards the government, resulting in instability. He saw violence as a shock therapy to cure corruption and rejuvenate civic virtue. Compassion can be used in the home, but when the time comes for the protection of the state and to handle enemies, a leader has to take harsh decisions. Hitler, Stalin, and Mao used unnecessary cruelty, while on the other side, Winston Churchill and Franklin D. Roosevelt in the Second World War used necessary cruelty for the sake of the nation and to maintain peace. A classic example of Machiavellian realism is of the integration of India by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, an indomitable man who integrated 565 princely states with the Union of India and prevented the balkanization of the newly independent country through carrot and stick policy. Chanakya once said, even if a snake is not poisonous, it should pretend to be venomous. Since there is complete anarchy in the global politics where the sole principle is might is right, we need Machiavellian realism to preserve, proliferate, and protect our hard-earned sovereignty. With this, I rest my case.
Benjamin Franklin once said, freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men, but a right that belongs to us by the laws of God and nature. Greetings to all. I am against the motion that he who becomes master of a city, accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it, may expect to be destroyed by it. Being a leader is hard. Leadership comes with many challenges. But handling these responsibilities by being ruthless is never the best option. The world has seen many cruel leaders. Unfortunately, people in power prefer to be feared than loved. They feel it's better if people are scared of you. Niccolo Machiavelli argued that cruelty can be better than kindness, whereas I beg to differ. A leader is for the people. He needs to have compassion for the betterment of citizens. If he wants to be the best leader, he needs to care for the people. My friend across the floor believes that brutality is important to lay a strong rule over the city, which is successful but only for a short period of time. To have power for a long period of time, a leader needs to be loved and respected. Deceptions and lies are to be caught sooner or later. Destroying a city in order to acquire it is a malicious thought. A leader should not think selfishly, rather he needs to be selfless. Sadly, they're only busy in finding means to remain in power and have control regardless of anything else. As Tom Peters said, a selfish leader will attempt to lead you for their own gain and for detriment of others. When people don't believe in certain policies, they have the right to protest, not revolt, and the master has to take their plea into consideration. Punishing people for opposing a law or a policy is not right or just. As Dwight Eisenhower said, you don't lead people by hitting them over the head. That's assault, not leadership. Machiavelli believes that the end justifies the means. I strongly disagree because even though Adolf Hitler wanted a place with homogeneity, killing and torturing millions of innocent people is iniquitous. His means were misdeed and his actions cannot be justified whatsoever. If a prince really wants to hold over a city, he should rather develop the idea of self government and take values into consideration, as morals can never be separated from politics. Connecting and understanding people is crucial for a leader. A leader cannot be ethical whenever it suits him. He has to be a balanced man. My dissenters very conveniently believe that a good leader needs to prioritize barbarous behavior over ethics only to preserve a city. But in reality, to preserve a city, a leader needs to be both kind and effective, even though absolute power always corrupts. If a leader is sympathetic towards the people, he will only get support in return. With this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Pranjal Mishra and I'll be speaking for the motion. The proposition statement is actually a quote by Niccolo Machiavelli from his book The Prince, which was written way back in 1513, a time when absolutist monarchies were prevalent in Europe. Sometime earlier, in his own state of Florence, the Medici dynasty, which had ruled for over 60 years, was dismissed by force by the people of Florence, and this led to decades and decades of political instability. Therefore, the notion of the removal of a ruler in his time was associated with political instability, which affected the security and stability and often the very existence of the nation. Therefore, controlling the people and curtailing their liberties was necessary to maintain stability and security. However, today times are very different. The idea of exercise of people's choice is inherent in today's democratic setups that rest on individual choice and individual freedom. Thanks to a proper system ensuring smooth transition of power, the most powerful and seemingly invincible political leaders must face political defeat at some point. No one is in power forever when the people are given the freedom of choice. In today's world order, only those rulers and governments last that curtail the freedom of the people. This could take the form of completely totalitarian states like the People's Republic of China or quasi-democracies like Russia. Therefore, Machiavelli's statement is as true and relevant today as it was back in 1513. However, the context and the connotation in which he made that statement has undergone a sea change. While change of leadership is inherent in today's democratic process and is no longer disruptive, no leader, however popular today, can hope to rule forever without undermining individual freedom and democracy.
Good morning, I'm Shweta, and I'll be speaking for the opposition. When the quote given by the House was written by Niccolo Machiavelli in his book The Prince, it was written under the context that rebellion always has the core value of liberty and its ancient privileges as a rallying point. And whatever the ruler may do or provide against, the citizens never forget their privileges unless they're dispersed and disunited. While this point may have been proved throughout the course of history, the point which stands to be debated is that while the ruler may expect some form of destruction, he may not expect to be destroyed. The notion of freedom indicates a type of government or state of management in which the citizens are free to make their own decisions. Stability during the state of freedom always depends on the capability of the ruler, whereas political instability is due to the incompetence of the ruler to submit to the needs of his subjects. The statement that no one is in power forever when people are given the freedom of choice can be disproved by an example as far back as 494 BC in the Roman Republic. The conflict of orders was a series of non-violent and bloodless protests organized by the plebeians, which were lower-class Roman citizens. They were protesting the current social structure put in place by the government, which was dominated by patricians. Each set of protests brought the plebeians more rights, protection, and access to public offices. Finally, in the 3rd century, plebeians received equal status without the destruction of the republic. Therefore, also proved by other rebellions in history, it's not the state of freedom that brings about the destruction or removal of the ruler or government. Rather, the way in which the city is governed, either with righteousness or malice, would be a clearer indicator of its sustenance and continuity. If this quote was in fact proved to be true, the current state of regions in the world which have increased levels of freedom would be in a higher state of turmoil compared to present levels as seen today. Thank you.
At his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst. A very good morning to all of you. Today I, Pragya Mehra, am going to speak for the motion. As Machiavelli, whose thoughts are conveyed in the topic, suggests, men can't be trusted. Betrayal is an ever-present danger. They will support the king when he is doing his good. But they are ungrateful, selfish and deceitful, will turn on him when danger comes near, or there is an opportunity of personal gain at his expense. The people are always in favor of freedom and democracy, as long as it does not have any consequential impositions. We live in a country in which freedom is looked at almost religiously. But if we were given the freedom to do anything we like, we might give the country over to the communists, which, ladies and gentlemen, would lead to a calamity or an apocalyptic turn of events. The very idea of ultimate freedom needs to be destroyed, because perhaps it is the only way to curb internal as well as external aggression. It is the only way to protect our people and the Constitution from being overthrown. Now, I'd like to end my point by saying that a strict law is an ordinance of reason made for the common good by him who has the care of community. Thank you.
Victory gained by violence is tantamount to a defeat for its momentarily, said Mahatma Gandhi. Good morning to one and all present here, respected jury, worthy opponents and attentive audience. Destroying something, good or bad, it brings us pleasure. Destroying something is really easy. One can destroy anything within a fraction of seconds, no matter what it is. A person, a society, a whole kingdom, or himself. Today, the House supports that the one who becomes the master of the city, accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it, may expect to be destroyed by it. And I stand totally against the House today. I believe when a new king wants to take charge, he should respect the rules of the citizens there. A city which has been always accustomed to live in freedom, if someone out of the blue wants to take charge, the citizens would definitely rebel against the king. As we all know, whenever a superior party tries to take charge and change the working of the whole administration, that organization is definitely destroyed. Take the example of India. When the Britishers took over India and wanted to do things what they wished to and like they wished to, the citizens of India united and the Britishers were destroyed, sent back to their own country by the citizens of India. No one in this world likes to be controlled by someone. Everyone should have the right to do what they want to do and live how they want to live. Changing a city from free to controlled is equivalent to telling a tiger to eat grass rather than eating other animals due to fear. That tiger might eat grass for some time, but after some time, that tiger would be so furious that it might want to kill its own owner just to be free. Whenever a king tries to change the whole working of the city, the citizens rebel against him. On the other hand, when he tries to abide by the old rules, the citizens respect him, accepts him easily and tries to cooperate with him. So letting the city work in its own way is better, as the city works in harmony in that way. In the end, I would like to say, you don't destroy things what you want to acquire in future. Destruction can only be a source of sorrow. How can one expect it to bring happiness? How can an evil thing be a source of happiness? How? Thank you.
Perhaps it's better to wake up after all, even to suffer, rather than to remain a dupe to illusions all one's life. Maybe Desiree also felt the same when she was spurned by Armand. Maybe Desiree had woken up from her dream. And so, we invite all the poets to express the pain of Desiree, the woman who bore the brunt of a man's mistaken sense of identity. The participants were asked to write a poem based on the short story Desiree's Baby by Kate Chopin. The story reveals the curse of slavery to not solely be a curse for the slaves, but to be a curse upon everyone, a curse upon the land. So, let's visit the antebellum plantation life and watch the story unfold through the words of our young poets. I invite the participants from Team A to present their poem.
Good morning, teachers. Today I'm going to present you a poem based on a story by Kate Chopin, Desiree's Baby, and it's composed by me. The title of the poem is Nothing But a Skin Color. The poem goes like this. Madame Valmont loved Desiree, though she was not her own, but believed her to be a gift from Almighty, cared for her with every inch of her soul and swore to protect her from every fiend and foe. Time passed, Desiree grew. Armand knew her since forever and realized all the love he felt for her. Love so deep, didn't care for her name or heritage, and asked her hand in marriage. Desiree gave birth to a beautiful boy who filled her home with joy. 3 months later, everything changed. Her loving husband was now enraged. She was confused. Suddenly, her son caught her eye. Dismayed by his color and appearance, she couldn't bring her mouth to form words into sentences. The thought of a child being of color was too much to bear. With her eyes filled with tears, she asked her husband.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sanvi Mohanty, and today I'm going to recite a poem named Purete Racial. This is the tale of Desiree and her beloved baby. She was courted by the great Armand, who fell in love with the dazzling lady. It was l'amour at first glance, and as Shakespeare said, who ever loved that loved not at first sight? Her progenitors were not known. No one knew her blood. Found in the shadow of a stone pillar, she was nurtured by Valmont and Monsieur. Their baby was not white, much to Armand's dismay. Accusing Desiree of being black, he turned her away. Desiree left with the baby, with tears, agony, and pain. She disappeared among the reeds and willows, never to be seen again. And soon the cradle, laces, and bonnets were set ablaze. At last he found a letter, revealing that Armand was the one belonging to the cursed race. The scorn, hate, and the self-glory brought him remorse, misfortune, and misery. Thank you.
The dark-skinned angel. It was a lie. It was not true. I was white. I assured myself that it would be all right. But it was I who bore the blame for the injury I had brought upon his name. He did not even bid the final farewell. He justified his act of vengeance well. He thought the mighty God had dealt cruelly, that it was he who had been treated unjustly. My skin was white as the muslin I wore, and his was black as his mother who bore. It was his mother who was black, who was cursed with slavery, but it was my child who was innocent, who was discriminated against racially. He burnt the memories, but he could never erase his guilt. He drowned in his sorrow, his pain, his guilt. It was he who was the demon, not my child's color. My child was an angel with a darker skin color. The beauty of night was on his face, yet his father did not embrace, for he had the skin of a darker color. My child was an angel with a darker skin color. My child was an angel with a darker skin color. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. Today I am Matangi Saji of class 10th. I am going to recite a poem, The Quadroon Kit Catastrophe, written by me, which is based on the story Desiree's Baby by Kate Chopin. The Valmontes lived in Creole, Louisiana during the antebellum era. One fine day, Madame Valmont went to La Brie to see Desiree and the baby. Desiree, who was adopted by Madame Valmont, was found as a toddler near their gateway. She grew up beautiful and became the one to wed Armand Aubigny and bear him a son. But Madame and the others noticed something evident. This little boy looked quite different. Alas! A daunting realization came soon. This infant's skin was the same as of a quadroon. Armand thought his wife had black ancestry and began ignoring her and their baby. A miserable Desiree wrote to Madame Valmont, to which she got a reply to come back right away. So she left with the baby as Armand didn't stop her. But she walked off to a bayou and vanished forever. Back home, as Armand was burning their possessions, he saw his mother's letter having a shocking confession. Due to his baseless assumption with his wife, he was enraged. But he found out that he was the one with black lineage. So dear friends, never do anything in a hurry, or you will face the same fate of Armand Aubigny. Thank you.
Good morning, I am Mnemosyne. Today I will be reciting a self-composed poem, The Invisible Mark. Walking through the streets near a big stone pillar, Mnemosyne discovered a small baby staring with fear. Anonymously abandoned, the little child was in tear. Madame adopted her and mothered her with a lot of care. Desiree grew up into a beautiful lady, bustling like a colorful butterfly. Armand fell deeply in love to marry her, but she, still so young and shy. Desiree, whose origin not known, spoke the truth and did not lie. Armand, now deeper in love, held her hands and dreaded the knot to tie. As seasons passed, Valmonte was beaming with excitement to meet her grandchild. Went to their house with bundle of dreams and basking with a lot of pride. Shattered she was to see the dilapidated condition of their poor house. Shocked by a conflict about Desiree's antecedent which now arose. Desiree's origin was being scoffed and challenged, became an invisible mark. Unlike her parents, the beautiful newborn baby's complexion was dark. Apathetic Armand abominably accused Desiree of belonging to the slave origin, helplessly exiled and expelled from her home as if she had committed a sin. All her belongings and things were being erased and consigned to flame. Suddenly, Armand stood still with a letter which incidentally bore his father's name. His late mother in the letter seemed so proud, describing situations so grave. Lucky to get a husband who loved her so much, despite of her origin of slave. Whilst the Almighty created all us kindred with endless love and passion. Smeared in hatred and greed, some humans color the society in a peculiar fashion. Let's recreate a new world, wherein only the inner beauty shall be the boutique of possession, and be a heaven with seamless love and diversity, curbing all bitterness with no distinction. Thank you.
Greetings to all. I am Deshna Botra of class 10th from Manasthali school, here to recite my poem, The Bitter Truth, based on the story Desiree's Baby. There once was a little girl. Her name was Desiree. She was white as a pearl, but sadly was betrayed. Under the shadow of the big stone pillar, Armand Abney felt an arrow right through his quiver. Armand was the proudest dad of a sweet little boy, but soon Desiree was bad because of this quadroon boy. Accused of being cursed, her blood turned to ice. Nothing could have been worse, and it was enough to suffice. Filled with his ego, he accused her racially, but then he came to know it was him with the brand of slavery. Thank you.
Warm greetings to everyone. I, Navya Malhotra of class 9, would like to recite a poem. The title of my poem is We Are One, Said None. The poetic device incorporated in my poem is rhyme scheme. Para 1, 3 and 5 follow rhyme scheme A, B, B, C, and para 2, 4 and 6 follow rhyme scheme A, A, B, B. Thinking of the antebellum period, where a story named Desiree's Baby was said, a beloved mother was left to be dead, as she belonged to the community of black. People there commit an unacceptable sin. They discriminate on the basis of color of the skin. Considering one race as a superior one, they put the other under a pressure of tons. Life is supposed to be a bliss, but it is disheartening for some of the heroes, for they call them Negroes. They bully them and treat them with hate. Those who believe that skin color is everything, I think it's time for you to rethink. You were to born from a female womb. Mend yourself or leave the room. God is proud of his creations and has taught not to judge a book by its cover. Then, why do you judge a man by his color? Be proud, be happy with what you have. Armand's love for his wife changed into hate as soon as he discovered his son to be disconsolate. But when he realized that he himself was the son of a black, did he leave his mother's path? Thank you.
My name is Pragati Chawla and I am in 10th grade. I will be presenting the poem, Oh Race, to Kiss You on the Lips. Oh race, to kiss you on the lips, to fasten to your gaze and use you for hate. I adore the intersection of classism, racism and slavery you give. You are a day and night we don't want to relive. Oh race, how brazen is your army. You choked and pummeled love and took away the heartbeat. Molten and shrunken like bodies of your prey. No creature is an entity without your charade. Strip them of all if you are not satisfied. We are you before we are human. Like a wrapper to a candy, you're a blindness to humanity. Oh race, That is why I must kiss you. What would happen shall I not? Wouldn't you misjudge me? Make me walk through rottenness and stubble, as vain is your melody? Kiss you to be intoxicated with a power greater than love. But oh race, you deceived me. I kissed you, nurtured you, and you pushed me from the nest? Alas, it's me. I didn't glow enough, wail enough, suffer enough. I was naive. I was ill prepared. I will do it right. Oh race, I will kiss you again. Allow me to redo. I am a mother, sister, a daughter, a lover. But I must undo. Thank you.
The delusional cocksure. A little girl sleeping under the shade of oak tree is found by a rich lady with eyes dreamy, who bore no child of her own, and reckoned the little girl as a gift flown from heaven afar by the God above, and named her after her mother Dove. Dove grew up to be caring, kind, and affectionate. Her parents felt proud and truly fortunate. Reliving the history, she sits under the oak tree, reading a romantic novel with utmost glee. She is looked upon by a handsome male, who fell in love as if struck by hail. He wanted to marry her the next morn. He cared not if she wasn't an heiress born, and so they married the next morn, and laughed together at a merry scorn. They soon bore a child with darkened hue. The shade he wore was not an appreciated view. The husband was quick to judge, and against his wife he held a grudge. He threw her out of the house and burnt all the letters of his beloved spouse. But he finds one his mother had given his father, stating that the one with the tag of slavery was his own mother, and so the delusional cocksure is what's told of his character. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Akshata, and today I'm going to be reciting a poem written by me, Desiree, a victim of racism. Desiree was a girl, beautiful and sweet, unaware of her roots because her parents were discreet. She didn't know she was an adopted child. As for her, a white family was where she was domiciled. One day, like the wind, came the handsome Marman out of nowhere in hindsight, and fell in love with Desiree at first sight. The feeling was reciprocated, so they both got married. But there was always something about which her mother was worried. After some time, Desiree was blessed with a baby boy. Oh, how she was flooded with overjoy! Though her happiness soon ended when Armand claimed that their marriage should be ended. He said that the baby was black, and for Desiree it was a big slap. He questioned her racial background, and she stood there spellbound. She wrote to her mother to know more about her past, but the abrupt answer left her aghast. She left Armand with the baby, completely losing her identity and who she was going to be. Desiree was a victim of racism, left alone by a man who was a supporter of chauvinism. Even today, there are many more Desirees in our society. So let's all stand against racism and promote global unity. Thank you.
Wow, I am at a loss of words. How beautifully has everyone presented the misery of Desiree. I can imagine the plantations and the young Desiree with her dreams, which eventually crashed and burned in the fire of Armin's ego. I want to congratulate all of you for the splendid performance. Moving on, we will now showcase the winning entries of At Pectora Poesis. Has always taken place in the creative world, and the combination of the two pursuits can result in pieces becoming even stronger than they were individually. To celebrate this union, the participants were given the poem The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats to illustrate. They were also asked to explain the idea behind it in a short write-up. Needless to say, we received amazing work from all the participants. However, due to paucity of time, we will be sharing with you only the winning entries. It's time to declare the results of the debate as well as the poetry writing and recitation competition. The best team of today's debate was from Ramjas School, Pusa Road, and the runners-up are APJ School Saket. Aman Unyal of Ramjas School was adjudged the best speaker in the category of For the Motion, and Chandrima Day of Gyan Bharati School was adjudged the best speaker in the category of Against the Motion. Heartiest congratulations to all the winners. In the poetry writing and recitation competition, the first position is awarded to Sanvi Mohanty of Amrita Vidyalayam. The second position is awarded to Mnemosyne of Gyan Bharati School, and the third position is awarded to Akshita Sehrawat of the Heritage School. And now, the big revelation, the rolling trophy of Mnemosyne 2020 goes to Amrita Vidyalayam. Heartiest congratulations to all the participants for making this event a success. I would now like to request our esteemed director, Lata ma'am, to kindly address the gathering.
Dear participating students of Mnemosyne, it was a pleasure to listen to each one of you. 21st century skills and communication is at the top, verbal or non-verbal. Reading and writing and speaking will be the skills outlined for the 21st century. And I'm so glad that each one of you have participated so beautifully in subjects that interest you most and are most relevant today. I would think that this part of your work, even during the lockdown, very clearly is indicative of minds which are completely free. You're the children who will make this life and the future worthwhile for everybody. So always stay encouraged, communicate beautifully, read a lot, write a lot, and have opinions. These are absolutely important for each one of you. I think the winners need to be congratulated, but everyone who has been a participant of this event deserves as much because it's not always about winning. It's about having your mind in it and speaking it too. Good luck and best wishes for safe living. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your words of wisdom continue to guide and inspire us. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our director, Lata ma'am, for being a source of motivation, and our principal, Nishi ma'am, for her constant encouragement. We would also like to express our gratitude to our vice principal, Sanjay sir, for his guidance. Last but not the least, we express our heartfelt thanks to all the teachers and participants for making this event such a grand success. Thank you so much.